That's true. And then, so where did you get started then? So you've got the offer, you've accepted the job. How did you decide what to organise to totally relocate to a different country?
So you must now remember that this was just before COVID, and in South Africa we were kind of a little bit oblivious of what was going on in the rest of the world. So the plan was to come over. He would start working. I would go back and pack up the house and decide, how things work. And then I came over with hand luggage and couldn't go back home. Our son, my office, our house, our dogs, everything was in South Africa. Everything was there, and I couldn't go back. So that was quite a crazy time. And I think now, when people move over, obviously the world has settled down a little bit, but there will definitely be additional challenges. So I don't think our situation can actually be regarded as the norm, since we had to basically do everything using a WhatsApp and lots of communication through. So I think the most important thing that people should remember is that when you do make the move, because of the housing situation in the UK, it can actually be quite difficult to find a place to stay. And we were very lucky in that we found somebody, and it was just literally days before things locked down, and because of a connection with that person who had been in South Africa to a place that we are very familiar with, he actually accepted our offer without having to go through all the process of vetting and making sure that you've got the money, etc. And of course, the letter from the NHS to say that Jack will have a salary and he's been appointed. That also made a huge difference because it kind of gives you that background. But I think that is probably the most difficult thing that people should know, that it can be really, really tough to find a place to rent. From South Africa, the difference in what is affordable is huge, in terms of what you get for your money.
If I can add on there, so when you come to the UK, you've got no credit record here. Your credit record in South Africa means nothing. Yeah, so you must either have a lot of cash at hand that you can bring over, but also opening a bank account can be challenging. So you have to have a letter from your employer to a specific bank, because you don't have an address first. So
my gosh, I've never even thought of all this, honestly.
So it's key that you get an address, because as you know, your postcode means everything in this country. Yeah? The other thing is getting communications up and running. So getting a cell phone or mobile phone with a SIM card that's working, connected to a Wi-Fi or a network. So that's your first step, is getting communications set up, and then getting your offer from your letter from the work, to get a bank account, and then to get an address and get a credit record. Also for buying a car or renting anything, you need a credit record.
So how did you get around the credit record? So with the rental, you had a friend. So what did you do in the interim between knowing the connection? Did you stay in temporary accommodation like a hotel, or?
We stayed in a B&B, Airbnb kind of thing.
Yeah, so we rented a furnished flat with a kitchen and wash facilities and clothes washing facilities. And then it wasn't a friend that we're renting from. There was just, it's a small village, and it wasn't a big company. Going through the big companies, I think I probably made 20 phone calls, and I think I got 2 viewings. So that is really, really tough, and people need to be prepared that can be incredibly stressful. So as is the fact that you arrive, you come out of the airport, somebody told you buy a SIM card, but you must actually activate it whilst you're at the airport. Before you leave the airport, don't get so excited, and then you do, and because then you can't activate it if you don't have a Wi-Fi. So eventually, I think we were activated.
We went to a pub. We went to a pub with Wi-Fi to sit down to get it activated. So stay in the airport, get the Wi-Fi, get connected, get up and running, and then you can leave. Otherwise, you can't get your maps up. You don't know where to drive.
These things, I don't even think, I'm quite lucky when I travel to like Europe or something, I just get off and my phone works. So I'm just on my merry way. But it's just, I rent as well. And I found that renting in the last couple of years in England, it is getting more difficult. The prices are going up. So I think, you know, we should have that information on hand. I think maybe some good places to contact, or not necessarily just the big organizations, because like you said, I know there's friends of mine wanting to rent in London and they're going to viewings that are gone before anyone's even looked at the apartment. So I think around that accommodation journey, we should definitely have the temporary thing, and obviously if people want to buy, but that's a whole different ball game. I'm not that great with that.
Yes.
Did you find the visa process quite easy, or did you not? Did you require visas?
Yes, so that is actually quite easy to do. The government.uk website is simple, self-explanatory. Just follow the cues and you go through the process. We've done the Canadian one before. We've looked at the Irish one, and the UK one is really the most simplistic one that there is. So applying for that and getting your certificate of sponsorship from your work, those are actually quite simple, straightforward processes.
It's more difficult to get your South African documentation ready than what it is to actually do the application itself. So one thing that we did is we actually in South Africa paid extra so that we could get our police clearance quickly, because on that side you have no idea how long it will take, and that can really slow down your process. So that's something that's worthwhile to do, actually taking the steps to use a private company to do your police clearance, because both of us needed that. Underage children don't need it, but adults need that. And then also the other thing is that you have to have a language, you have to write a language test before you come, an English language test before you come to the UK. And then when you one day, if you do want to apply for citizenship, you have to write the language test again.
Again?
Yes, apparently so. So those are all things that take time. So it's not as simple as get a job, get onto the plane and come. It's things that you should actually have in place before you have an interview, because it can take, you can wait 2, 3 or 4 months for a space to write a language exam, or for your police clearance certificate, which you will need for your visa application.
Was the English exams like the IELTS and the OET? Is it?
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So and we normally do well in them, but they've changed the writing part recently, so you must really prepare. I've done it, and it's only valid for 2 years. So I've done multiple of them over the past 20 years, and I've passed them with ease on each and every occasion. But this one, coming to the UK, I failed twice because of the writing, that part that is now marked on electronic.
A template. It's a template, and if you don't follow the template, then you can have I mean, I've written a book, I can write, but if you don't follow the template and you go exactly according to the formula that the computer is looking for, you won't pass the test.
Oh gosh, I feel like I left school like 15 years ago. I wonder if I'd even passed the test. I'm doubting myself that I even would now. I won't mind having a look at it.
But you can, there's lots of information on the internet, and you can just do the exercises, but prepare. Don't think, oh, I can speak English, I'll be fine.
And you think it's best to have all that prepared, and because securing the job and actually getting the visa is quite a simple process. It's the eligibility part that takes a while.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And then did you find like utility bills, bank cards, and did you find all that quite straightforward once you were in your property?
Yes, when you're in your property and you've got a postal address, then things just flow from there. And when you have a job and your trust normally has a relationship with a local bank, you can open a bank account. And when you have a property and you get your council bill, then you have an address and you have proof of address. And from there, things go easier. Yes.
I'd be interested to hear as well. So I know you said you came over with your hand luggage and then you had to organise moving all your things because of COVID and the way it worked. And I know you had family members and your dogs. So how was that process? How did you have to wait until the world was open again, or did you find it straightforward? Was family visas okay? Like, how is that? Because I know a lot of people do want to come over first on their own, get settled, and then bring their families and their belongings and their pets over.
So we had made the decision to kind of do everything together so that we can come together, because the plan wasn't for us to have a look and then decide whether we wanted to do this or not. But we had made a decision because we were older and our son was also at the point where he actually wouldn't have the 3 years requirement. If you want to study here, you have to have 3 years in a British school if you want to go to university. Otherwise, you will pay international fees. So we didn't have a lot of time for that. So I think we had everything ready. Family visas. Once the main sponsor visa has been approved, it's almost natural that the spousal visa and the family visas, that's not the problem. So you know, people can decide that. For some families, it might be meaningful to say, right, the husband can come first, or the wife, whoever's got the main sponsorship. But for us, it didn't work like that. I think it can be very, very tough for a family to be split up, and then one person stays here. We've done that before, where you actually stayed and you locumed and you stayed on for 6 or 8 weeks, and it can be incredibly tough because you when you come here, you don't have a support system. You might have friends and all of that, but everybody's busy, everybody's got their lives, and things are different. And particularly in winter, if it's cold and you're not in a city where you know you have access to public transport to perhaps go and do things, then I think it can be quite depressing. So for us,
and the darkness
takes a long time for South Africans to get
British
used to.
winter.
Yeah. So I mean, for us, so it was very hard because of COVID. In the beginning we literally didn't even have a table to eat off. We used the box that we had bought the washing machine in as a table for many weeks because everything was closed. But if you
and a blow-up mattress for
a bed and things like that. But if you can stage your arrival so that perhaps it's not months on end, but maybe 2 months, then one person can stay in an Airbnb and the other person can actually look around for rentals. And in that time, even with that, it might still be very difficult to overlap the arrival of your own furniture into the country when you actually need it. So that's something that practically can be incredibly difficult to deal with. So those are the things that you don't necessarily think about before the time. You kind of think, oh well, I'm going to get on the plane and on the other side I will have my bed and my towels and all of those things. And I think the chances that it's possible to actually work it so that all of those things fall in place at the right time is zero.
The other important thing is in South Africa we have big houses with big furniture. So make sure, so we've got a beautiful table standing back in South Africa. We'll never be able to bring it over. It won't fit in the house. So think of how your furniture will fit into a smaller UK house, smaller front door. Will it be able to get in at all?
Will it be able to get up the stairs? So our beds, South African beds, aren't made to be taken apart most of the time. They're solid. Whereas if you have a staircase, a typical UK staircase, you're not going to be able to get the bed up the stairs. So it's all little things that you don't necessarily think of. Something that's also been very useful, I think, and there are lots of forums on Facebook for South Africans in the UK, and people have over and above the agencies, you can ask questions there, and you'll get lots of opinions and advice. It can make you a bit confused, but at least it gives you a bit of an idea how different people also experience the move, and how things are very, very different. But often better, but different.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know that your experience would be different to other people's, but there's so many valuable things that you've said there that I would just never think of. I'd never think about the bed. Even now, I don't even know how sofas get in buildings. I've always rented furnished. I've got no idea. But it's just all the little things. So thank you so much. That's so valuable.